Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your master of musical and video and film mayhem. Yeah, I did want to start it out with rock and roll all night, but I don't want to run into YouTube's restrictions. So you're getting crime fiction from, Revenge, Godzilla's Revenge, a movie I'm sure Gene Simmons has in his collection just because. So, as you might have guessed, we are going to be talking about the 1978 classic Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. And I do understand the irony of not being able to use any Kiss music in a movie about Kiss. I do have a bumper here, though, which has some music to it. This movie debuted on Halloween Eve, um, October 28th, 1978. Your humble agent was a whopping 13 years old and was plopped right there in the front of the television. Woe to anyone. Woe be to he or she who tried to make me leave the television that day. Feature film. Yes. That's a love. I don't know who did that. I'd never seen that before the internet, and it's ubiquitous on the internet. Be that as it may, I love the movie. I love it now. I am not blind to its faults, but it had an impact on me. We're not really going to discuss too much about the actual movie. I just wanted to put that in there because this came off the VHS copy from Good Times. See, Good Times and a Taft company. So it starts out with the instead of the Love Gun logo, which or LP, it's the previous LP, Rock and Roll Over. I never understood that, but probably because of the Love Gun album cover is far sexier than this one. This is very tame, all things considered. So, and it's pretty iconic. It make a pretty great tattoo. Be that as it may, where were we here? Let's see if we can get a little further into here without the. That's the NBC Sunday night at the movies, something like that. And they're not talking yet. Saturday night at the movies. That makes a lot more sense. Which means I probably watched a monster movie after this. I mean, it runs 95 minutes, your standard 2 hour time slot back then. And yeah, it starts out with a bang, though. I mean, look at this. They're playing rock and roll all night over Magic Mountain, which is presented as a failing park, and that's just not. It's still one of the most popular non things that aren't called Disney in Southern California. I've been there a couple of times, and we get the montage here, and Anthony Zerb, and just all sorts of nifty. It's just cool. It's a great opening. Deborah Ryan, Sam doesn't get it. These young ladies in their Kiss groovy, they're looking up there and seeing Gene Simmons towering above them, and they're probably turned on. 24 seconds for that NBC opening. So here's our real culprits. I'm sure they just thought we'll just crank out something like this and everyone will accept it. Sadly, I mean the band's kind of everyone's to blame for this, and to give all the credit to for even making it, but the script is a lot of problems. Gordon Hessler, of course, is well known as a director of many television shows, and he directed. He was born in Berlin, Germany. The oblong box, but the most famous one, of course, is the 1974 Golden Voyage of Sinbad with Ray Harryhausen, and I would be willing to bet also Dimes if Gene knew about that, he would have wanted to talk about the Golden Voyage of Sinbad with the director of the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. So he also went to television, did The Night Stalker, Kung Fu. I'm just naming a few here. He's a good director. I'm sure he thought this was below him, but he was also must have been a professional and did a good job for what it had. So, one of the best things about this movie, it is such a picture of the 1978 in Southern California, where it's hot as blazes. It had to be when they were filming this. Just if it was released in, well, I don't know how long it took to make, but the boys were at their height, their most popular right now. They'd released their, I think they'd released their solo albums by this point, or right on the verge of doing it. But because as we'll talk about the European version, it has many songs, several songs from each of the solo LPs, some to the benefit, some to the detriment. So it's just, but this is what Magic Mountain looked like in 1978. So I just love the fact that they have all this. There's our villain, Abner Devereaux. Devereaux. Later on, when I was watching, when my grandmother was watching Days of Our Lives, Jack Devereaux always made me think he must be related because he was a scoundrel. I just was there in the room. I didn't follow it for 10 years or anything. Anyway, he's upset that there's the Love Gun cover, sans semi-naked women, but in black and white, oddly enough. So there's the guy that runs the park, who is Calvin Richards, played by Carmen Karate. Deborah Ryan has no, well, there's a lot of people in this movie that really shouldn't be in here. Nice little airplane banner. And I believe that's Chopper there, who was played by John Dennis Johnston. So there's this band. This is mercifully cut out of the European version. These jerks. It's just kind of stupid. There's a good almost half hour from the beginning, after the opening credits, to the band. But you do get to see Kiss contests, and there you go. And old school, the Octopus Ride. I always called it the Octopus Ride at Elitch's here, but it's just, and the high tech digital stuff. Now Melissa is looking for Sam, her boyfriend, who's been missing, and he's under Devereaux's control. There's your thing. He's got cybernetic control. So why didn't he just use that instead of building complex androids? We'll never know. The vagaries of the mad mind, right? There's Chopper and Dirty D and Slime. Slime is Dirty D's boyfriend. Lisa Jane Persky. They sound like they're from the Bronx, even though they're in Southern California. There's a Frankenstein monster, inspired probably by Herman, from the Munsters. And this was interesting, and I hadn't noticed before. There's a sound check. You can actually hear the guys doing a sound check as they get set up. Kiss is there for 3 nights, doing free concerts in the parking lot. The parking, where did they park? So I don't know if they bust them in, all these people, but they had to be Kiss fans because they look like Kiss fans. See? He was going to be sunburned, even though it's at night. Looks pretty good, though. The makeup's well done. My makeup, well, when I wore Kiss makeup, was never that good until KGB herself did it. When I was playing roller derby. And the music's about to start. I like the lightning here. They come flying in. Zaps and zaps. What a great entrance. I'm surprised they didn't figure out how to do this for their end of the road tour. Even with, there's Gene, and now they launch into Shout It Out Loud, I believe. So just, and this fan in 1978 would be almost 50 years old. Gee, many Christmas. Maybe not quite 50, but he grew up listening to Kiss. In fact, he might be one of Gene's children. There's really nice shots here. Exploding bands. I'm sure that, it's really nicely shot because the director is a good director. So, and they didn't have multicams or anything like that. And these were heavy, they were paying probably 35 millimeter film. Sam's taking pictures for Devereaux of the band. So something's up. Melissa saw him, gets zapped, and then that's how she gets involved with the band, because they're also not just rock and rollers, they're do-gooders. And here's a do-better who is not Boris Badenov. So he makes a clone of Gene, the demon, who goes on a rampage. And I'm sure most of this is actually Gene and not his stuntman. He probably had a great time doing it because it was all about him. And here's the Cheech and Chong of the park security. They act like they're policemen, but they really wouldn't be policemen. Gene was actually pretty natural. He didn't. His voice is digitally altered or mechanically altered, so you can't really tell if he's acting poorly or not. But his body language is good. He looks like he means it. Yeah, he's holding. So, and here they are at the scene there. They're dressed like the space monks at the pool, and of course they never take their makeup off ever. They're just that way. No human identities. And so Peter has allegedly been dubbed over, and he denies it. He said he was there doing um, all of his acting, but I'm sure that he did. However, I'm sure there was a lot of ADR going on, additional dialogue recording. For those of you not in the business or the know, because let's see, Michael Bell is alleged to have done it, and they probably both did. We'll never know. I mean, it was like I said, almost 50 years ago. This is a great. I love this shot. So once again, this came from the full screen VHS that was released sometime in the 80s twice. It was released on an SP mode. Boy, that takes you back, doesn't it? SP mode recording, and then an LP mode. The LP mode is the one I had, and that was the cheap one, the $9 one from Good Times. I don't know which one this is. I'm assuming it's a good picture, so I'm assuming it's the SP mode. But those were always more expensive. Paul can use his eyeballs app to eavesdrop, so that's a nice touch. And here's the fans. I mean, those are real Kiss fans. There's no. I mean, they might have been given free tickets, but if word got out that Kiss was playing 3 nights, for a movie, you go see it and be a part of it. I mean, they probably all did it in one night, but allegedly this whole story takes place over 3 nights. So I think they're singing "I Stole Your Love" there, but there's Gene breathing fire, which we all know he does in Firehouse. And now they're singing Beth acoustically, which is really nice. And I'm surprised, as talented as of guitarists as they were and musicians, I think they should have done it acoustically all the time, but they always had Peter sing to a backing track, had strings and everything. Boring. But there are the talismans that provide them their power, even though Peter said everyone has their own personal talisman, they just have to find it. Apparently, they don't. But so there's and this comes right out of the comic book. Well, these are the second series of talismans from the comic book. So, because of the first one, they were in their Destroyer comic costumes, which are my favorite simply because that's where I started listening. But I do really like the Love Gun outfits too. I like most of their outfits. So they've gone after Devereaux, and now they're fighting in the Dungeon of Terror or whatever he called it. And what do we have here? Oh, they've been captured because Devereaux uses a laser on their talismans and takes away their power. They get captured and sends out the fake Kiss that he's created to sing "Rip and Destroy" and destroy the amusement park. Now, Devereaux is an interesting character. He's not particularly evil. He's very charming, but he just wants to wipe out his source of income. If he'd have thought about it, if he wasn't crazy, he'd have thought about it a little more and said, approach the army. I can make these robots that do everything humans can do. You can send them into dangerous situations. But villains never quite think of that, do they? So they're using their powers. They're surrounded by laser bars, and they have to get their talismans back, and they do. See, there's the laser. That gives them their power, and off they go, flying into the stage. I mean, if this were happening in real life, this would have been so awesome to see. And the movie kicks in once the band takes over, and you don't see the dopey humans. They fight the we'll see them in the things they fight momentarily in a bit with a better picture, because this is not the best. The lighting's a little off. I mean, obviously it couldn't be digitally altered back then. There they are. Everybody's fighting. And if you know what to look for with Ace's second stunt double, first stunt double, they all had three or two stunt doubles. So it's a good fight scene. It's pretty short, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. And you can tell that's really not Paul, but he zaps himself and blows up. The crowd goes crazy. Gene kills Gene. Boom! Now, Paul says, "Are you ready for the real kiss?" And everyone just says, "Oh yeah, okay, great." How would they know? Now they found Sam's control, and in the film, in the European version, Paul actually zaps it with his laser eye and saves him. They're happy again. What a shame. He bent his genius toward evil, and he's catatonic. So this ending was a bit confusing. I mean, I didn't understand it. His hair grew longer and got white. Why would that happen? I mean, I could understand him going into catatonia, but. And they go back and start playing God of Thunder, which is a wonderful way to end this movie. You get the credits. Hoyt Curtin, of course, did most of Hanna-Barbera's music. Also, the theme song for Battle of the Planets, the U.S. localization of Gatchaman. And instantly, that's still just as good, almost as good as the Gatchaman theme song. I'd like to know more about Fred Karlin, because he did a great job with the fight scenes, considering what he was working with. And Buddy Joe Hooker. See, that name sounds vaguely familiar to me. The stunt doubles really deserve a lot of praise. What did I just do there? There's your special effects. And Magic Mountain, yes. So it's just funny to hear him talk at the beginning of the movie that this concert is going to put the park on the map. I can tell you exactly where it is. Super easy to find. And Hanna-Barbera production. This might have been part of the other problem. Now, Kiss wasn't they really went for a younger audience with this movie. I was the perfect age for it, 13, and I would assume anyone even, from 7 to 13 would have loved it just once the band took over again. But probably older fans weren't going to get it. It was supposed to be Hard Day's Night meets the Star Wars, and it wasn't going to be that. It's a very small story, small in scope, but it could have been a good story. They needed a couple more rewrites, and meh, but they didn't get it. And the guys were not used to how films work. Hurry up and wait. Set up, and they had to get the sun. The sun had to be in the right place because there's a lot of outdoor shots. I can understand why they got bored. I mean, I'm sure Gene was into it because you can tell. So I loved it, but I didn't see it again probably for 5 or 10 years simply because it was never, the band hated it. And here it was released, or this is the European version. Obviously that's German, I believe, using the Dynasty pictures. But look at that. So the DVD that the band let be released is 85 minutes. I thought it was a little shorter than that even. I'll have to look again. I think when I first saw it was about 78 minutes, which could be due to the PAL version. So it's a better movie. It moves faster. It gets rid of a lot of the gloss. It does some great resubbing of the music. So from their solo albums, but it does not end on God of Thunder. It ends on some sappy love song, I think. Hold Me, Touch Me, maybe, by Paul Stanley. Yeah, I know. I'm slagging off Paul's solo album. It's my least favorite. I like Peter's solo. I like Ace's. I like some of Paul's songs. I just didn't. I mean, it was very typically Kiss. So starts out the same way though, and you get a better picture here. Look at it's clear. We're going to go through this in a hurry because we've already seen most of them, but there's the girls from earlier. Look at how much clearer that is from the VHS tape. I'd pay for a Blu-ray with both versions of the movie on it, and if they would get the band to talk about it, it would be fun. I mean, I bet Ace and Peter would probably talk about it, but Ace said he had a great time, even though he was blitzed on a wide variety of substances. So yeah, it's just a beautiful picture though, and I did want to see if there's just different shots. Yeah, there's our fighting. They're fighting these wolf apes here, and this fight scene goes on, and it's a good one. There's some slow motion, which was needless, but also, it reminded me of Sentai and Kamen Rider. So that's why I'd like to know more about the fight coordinator because he did a great job here. You know, I'm so. I mean, Paul's acting improved over the course of the movie, but at the first he's a little too formal and he likes his poses, which, would be fine if he had some more dramatic poses. I don't believe that's Peter punching the samurai or the kendo master there. And the judo master gets thrown by Ace's stunt double, who I don't think is the other stunt double, but we'll never know. That's a nice shot. Again, look at Paul posing. Even the band did a good enough job. I mean, if you didn't know, I think by 13 I could start discerning that Paul at the start was just kind of reciting his lines, trying to be dramatic, and instead of being relaxed with it. It's hard. I would be very nervous too for a first time acting gig. There's a nice shot of a widescreen. See how beautiful this picture is? They're fighting. Yeah, we're getting to the end here. So it was a lot easier to get some great shots here than it was with the tape. This Gene hoisting that was always very much was used in a lot of magazines. There is the the LP version, the longer playing. I don't even remember what it meant. Standard play, long play, extended long play, EP, something like that. Well, we don't have to deal with that anymore. Just get good picture. And it's digital. I find it interesting that Peter and Gene are the ones on the cover. So, my fellow agents. Oh, and I didn't even get to more of this. Let's. Yeah, we get a little music.
I will destroy you, all of you. You kids will be my instrument.
I even forgot to, like, share, subscribe, vote. There won't be a vote in the poll because I've kind of given up on that idea. Subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, and hit that bell. Be notified when there's a new video up. We put it up. We put up new material daily.
We've got to get out of here.
See what I mean by Paul? I'm hoping that this does not get struck because I've let it play too long. It is a promo and it's available everywhere, so.
I don't believe it! Yes, you can believe it.
And now on NBC Saturday Night at the Movies, Kiss meets the Phantom.
I was very excited about that. You will see the trailer at the end. I'll put that on. But until our next assignment, my fellow agents, this is X7. And hang on to your talismans, whether you see them or not.
Destroy you, all of you. You kids will be my instrument.
Yikes. Apes is more like it.
We've got to get out of here. I don't believe it! Yes, you can believe it.
And now on NBC Saturday Night at the Movies, Kiss meets the Phantom.